Hi, class. This is obviously your teacher here. I wanted to quickly walk you through some of Chapter 9 to help you with exercises on the demo 1, 2 through 5. So it's 2 through 5, just to kind of get you rolling on demo 1. It's kind of confusing making the crop marks, so I'm going to kind of help walk you through that. So this should basically, I'm going to start on page 187, exercise 2, and walk you all the way through exercise 4. From there, it should be pretty straightforward. In addition, demo 2 and demo 3, there's a screencast on the website, the Digital Art-Design website, that will help you walk you through steps 2, or demo 2 and demo 3. So you definitely want to watch that screencast. And then step 4 is relatively straightforward. So let's take a quick look at what you'll be creating here. So here, this is the final results. If we unclick step 4, 3, and 2, you'll see this is step 1. So essentially you're creating an application that has 4 interfaces. So you're basically a UI designer, and we are going to create an app. And so in creating this app, we need to build the interfaces, and then probably more than likely a programmer would come and kind of add the interactivity to this. So essentially you're a user interface designer who needs to create the interface for this this collage. So you're building this app that's like a camera. It's like a camera app that allows you to blend 2 images together to create essentially a collage. So this is what step 1 will look like when you're done. This is what step 2 will look like when you're done. This is step 3, and finally step 4. And you can see we've started with this image. We chose this image from our camera roll to be our first image that we want to put in our collage, and then we're going to use it. And then in our second, we chose our second image that we want to put into our collage. And in our third step, we blended the 2, and then we're going to hit save. And in the fourth step, we have our final collage built. So let's just get going on step one here. This is page 187. Essentially, I'm going to walk you through putting in these crops, which is kind of difficult. So we're going to put in these crop marks, and really notice here that essentially we're going to cut out the edges here, and then I'll show you how to make this yellow highlight. And then the last thing I will do, and then I'll let you take over, is I'll help you make this camera roll here as well. So let's get started. So we need to open up chapter 9, and we want to go to start. And we're going to open up our chapter 9 start.psd, I'm sorry. And essentially, we're going to just be working on the first part, which is the graduation image. So we're going to turn the beach runner off. So you should just have your graduation image up there. And now we're going to start building this crop, because essentially we want to take this part of the image, and then we're going to blend the beach runner image up here. So we want to build what is like a crop tool here. So essentially, we are going to grab our shape tool, our rectangular tool here. We need to set the fill to none. The stroke should be black. And I believe the fill should be 3 points. So I'm just going to quickly change that to 3, not 23, 3, and hit enter. And now I'm ready to pull out my rectangle. So I'm going to start somewhere up around the cement of the what do you call those box seats there. And you'll notice that I get these guides that pop out when I hit my edges perfectly. There's one on the bottom. There's one on the left. And there we go. So I probably did not hit them perfectly on the other side. So what I might do is fix that. Essentially, but before I do that, I'm going to change that from 3 points to 5 points, just so I can see it better, and actually it needs to be bigger anyway. So there we have it at 5 points. I'm going to make sure it's selected there. And essentially, I'm going to Command T here, just so I can make sure that I hit my edges. There, and you can see the Smart Guide came out when I hit it right. And there, so I look good. So I can hit return to get out of Command T. So I should be good there. And oftentimes when I want to click off the selection of the rectangle, I'll just click over here. So I can see it looks like I'm lined up really well there. So that's great. We're good there. And we're going to essentially call this crop. We'll call this crop edge. And that takes us on to page 188. So we're going to do Command R to get our rulers up. Mine are already up, but I'll Command R there. And just a quick tip here. Eventually you want this to be on pixels, but let's say you have it set to inches. How you change that is you right click or command click on the ruler itself, and that'll allow you to see what you can change it to. I'm just going to leave mine at pixels for right now. So there we go. So now we need to bring down two guides that are about 50 pixels from the top of our square that we built and 50 pixels from the bottom. So I'm totally going to just eyeball this. That's fine for me. There's about 50 pixels. And actually I'm going to clear my guides because I've been doing other stuff in here. So I'm going to clear my guides and I'm going to pull that down from the top about 50 pixels. And then I'm going to pull down just from up here in the ruler. If you just click and pull down on the ruler, you can pull down these guides. And then I'm going to pull another one that's very close to the same as I did on the top to give me roughly 50 pixels there too. Now essentially what we want to do here is we want to subtract this part here so that we get we're basically subtracting this here and this here from both sides. We want to get rid of that out of our black rectangle. So how we're going to do that is essentially we're going to take that rectangle tool again, shape tool, and we're going to just subtract it by choosing this option up here. This is kind of tricky to see, but up here you can see you can subtract from front shape, and that's exactly what we want to do. So it's right here. So I got my crop edges chose because I want to subtract from that. Then I'm going to use my guides, maybe zoom in just a little bit. So and that's why we drew these guides, so I can pull down from there into my other guide, and it should essentially just push it out like that. Now I'm going to hold my space bar down and go and do the same thing to the other side. And there I have that. So we're looking good there. So I'm going to command minus out here. So I've got both kind of indented, even though they're not equal, it doesn't matter. Essentially what we're going to do now is knock out that middle. So we're essentially going to subtract all of this out of the middle. It's a little convoluted, but it gets the job done. So let's see, where are we in the book here? 50 pixels, the two rectangles should be extracted. All right, so here we go. We're going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm just going to subtract that middle. So I still have subtracted selected. So I'm going to start to do that, to subtract from that all of the middle out of the rectangle. And I'm going to use my guides to help me out here. And there we go. So I'm going to turn off my guides to see what I did by holding Command and hitting the semicolon, and then just kind of clicking off. So now I have that. I have those completely knocked out, and the middle's gone as well. Let me do that one more time because it's a little confusing. So I'm going to back up, and I'm going to get my guides back in there. So zoom in a little bit. And with my shape tool, rectangle tool selected, and I've got subtract from front shape selected. And I want to make sure I'm on the crop edge there, because that's what I want to subtract from. And I'm going to go in the upper corner there, the best of my ability there. And I'm going to go all the way to the other side. We're just trying to take out the entire middle minus our edges there. And I'm going to pull down until we're about right there. And there we go. We've got that. So I'm going to zoom back out and just pull over a little bit. Now, essentially, we want to name this to crop area. So we've got that now. So now we're on to page 190. We're going to add a layer effect. Basically, we want to make our crop kind of glow, so it kind of, when it looks like a selection. So how we do that, there's two ways to get to essentially you're going to add an outer glow. You can either double click on the crop area, or you can simply hit the word FX down here, which means effects. And we want to add an outer glow. And so here are my options with my outer glow, and you can instantly see if I turn this on and off, my glow comes in there. So now she has you bump up the opacity to 60% and change it to the cone shape. Now that's a little bit much for me. And in general, these effects, they're really nice, but you want to use them sparingly. Some people might consider them kind of chintzy or cheesy, but you want to use them. Sometimes they can be really effective. I mean, you've got a drop shadow in here, color overlay. So, you know, it can be effective, but you want to use them sparingly. So to me, I automatically think that's too much at her settings. So I'm going to go back to the first one. It's a little more subtler. Actually, I'll leave it on the cone shape, but I'm going to pull the opacity down because it's just a little too much for me. Maybe somewhere in there. So now if I turn it on and off, I've got a nice glow. And it's not too much like that. I mean, that's really just too much for me. So I'm going to go there. And I've got a nice outer glow on my crop image to show that it's a selection. I'm going to hit OK. So we're good there. Now, essentially, we want to make this stroke bigger. So if I select that, and so it's not selecting it right away, but if I hit my shape tool again, it now selects it. And I want to change my stroke to 10 pixels. 10, enter. And you can see that nothing happened. So, but you need to do that step. So what I'm going to do to pull that stroke out more is first I'm going to zoom in by Command plus. I'm going to come over to the corners. And with my direct selection tool, which is right here, the white one, I'm going to choose that corner there by clicking it once, and I'm going to scroll all the way over here, and I'm going to hold my Shift key down and click this corner. Now I've got those corners selected, and on my keyboard I'm going to go to the down arrow and hit it 5 times. 3, 4, 5, and boom, we've increased our stroke there. Now we're going to do the same thing on the bottom here. I've got that one selected. I'm going to scroll over here, hold my Shift key down to select the other corner. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm great there. Now I need to get the edges to come out, or the sides. Hold my Shift key down. So I've got the bottom one and this one selected. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to come over and do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to select this corner here, come down to the bottom, hold my Shift key down, select this point here, and one on my keyboard, my left arrow on the directional arrow is the left one, 4, 5, will push that out. So it's just the arrows on your keyboard, the directional arrow going left. So there we go. So if I zoom out and I hide my guides by holding Command semicolon, I've got my crop area built there. So that's great. So now what we want to do is we want to, if we go back to our results, we want to add in this yellow highlight to once again show that this is what we're cropping. So essentially what I'm going to do here is choose the rectangle tool again, and I want to make sure we're on new layer because I want to draw a new shape. I'm going to want to set my fill to yellow, and how I might do this is I'm going to double click on the yellow here, and then you can see she has the values. I'm going to enter in here under the red 255 and the green 255 and the blue is 0, and I'm just going to add that to my swatches and hit OK. And now that color should be there. There it is right there. I'm going to leave my stroke. She has the fill to, and the stroke to none. So my stroke is going to be none. Oops. So I want to back out of that by doing Command Z. And make sure I don't have that crop area layer selected. I'm just going to click here so it's not selected anymore. And you want to be careful of that. Sometimes when you're minusing the shapes, if things, if like the whole thing's disappearing, sometimes you have to click off the crop area. So just be careful. So I should be good now to make my shape. I just want to make sure my fill is set. And now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to fill in that center with this yellow color the whole way over. And I'm going to come just to about right there. And there we go. I'm going to zoom out. Now essentially you want to change the transparent, you want to make this more transparent. So we're going to take the opacity here and we're going to lower that to 20%. And then there we have it. And then she has you move this rectangle 1 layer. I believe you renamed the rectangle layer. Yes, she has you rename it to, and I just double click there, to highlight crop. And then she wants you to move the layer down in between the crop area and the graduation. So that takes us through creating the crop. There we have the crop. Awesome. Now we're on to exercise 4, adding a vector mask to the camera roll. So this is, we're going to do this a little bit out of order here because it doesn't quite work. I found in the book it's a little tricky. So essentially we're going to do number 1, number 2, and then we're going to make number 5, number 3, number 3, number 4, and number 4, number 5. So I'll just walk you through this real quick. So we want to go and open the camera roll.psd, which is in our start folder. And we're going to just take that whole thing, click to grab it, and pull it over into our new file here. And I'm just going to drop it right there. Boom. And that's actually pretty much exactly where I want it. She has you pull out a guide from the side here, about 512 pixels in, just so you can see where things are centered. And you can see right there, it's telling me my dimensions. So 512 right there. And you can see my camera roll is pretty well right in the middle. I might nudge it over with my move tool and my left arrow key just a little bit. So it's pretty well centered already. All right, so I'm good there. Okay, so now essentially what we need to do, I'm going to go to number 5. So we did 1, 2, and now I'm going to go to number 5. And by clicking on the camera roll, so I'm going to add a vector mask to the camera roll. And how I do that is make sure your camera roll is selected, and then hold the command key down, and then hit the mask key right here at the same time. And it should add that mask on there for you. So that was actually number 5 there. So now we're going to go back to number 3 and make our rectangle. So I need a rounded rectangle, and I need the color to be gray and the stroke to be black, but I need my points to just be 2. So I'm going to change it to 2 and hit enter. And then essentially we're going to pull a rounded rectangle out across our camera roll so that we can mask it and it has this rounded shape. So I'm just going to pull out my rounded rectangle, just about like that. That looks good. And so now I'm going to name that. What am I going to name that? Let's see, what does she have you name it? A roll UI. And then I'm just going to click on that again. Just make sure you just click this again. So we want to still have that roll UI selected. And now we're on to number 6. So we don't want to do the Command A because we already have the camera roll selected. So don't do Command A. From here, you're going to copy Command C. So we just copied the gray shape. And then we want to paste it right here in our vector mask. So I'm going to click that once, and I'm going to hit Command V to paste it. So there we go. So now I want to go back to my roll UI here, and I want to lower the fill to 0. And there you have it. That now gives you the camera roll, and it's in this nice kind of selection box. So that walks you through 1 through 4. In the demo 1, that walks you through exercise 4. You can now move on to exercise 5 in demo 1. All right.